Dan, you got less than a minute. Oh, on that clock, it's 9 o'clock. You got 30 seconds. There you go. Dan, do the implication of that.
Amen. Done.
Got about 15 seconds.
Jason's not back on mic,
So 15 seconds.
whether he wants to speak or not.
Said you don't need to sit around. We're gonna present. We're gonna approve it. Go ahead. Y'all ready? Good morning. Call this meeting of the Cartersville City Council to order. If you'll please stand for our invocation and pledge.
Pray with me. Our dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this morning. We thank you for this time that we can come and once again do the business of this great city of Cartersville. And we thank you for our city staff who has put this agenda together, has done the work, and thank you for this opportunity to come and serve in this position for this city. Bless us now as we go forward. Give us wisdom and give us knowledge. And we ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Drake, roll, please.
Carrie Hodge, Ward 1. Jay Stepp, Ward 2.
Here.
Carrie Roth, Ward 3.
Here.
Calvin Cooley, Ward
Here.
Ward 4. I'm so sorry. Gary Fox, Ward 5. Here. Taft Wren, Ward 6.
Here. Thank you, Julia. First order of business is the approval of our council meeting minutes from September 2nd. Council, you've had an opportunity to look these minutes over, and now would be the time to make any changes to those. If there are no changes, then a motion to approve them would be in order.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously with mouths full of breakfast burritos. We are going to take a little bit of, well, actually, let's do this first item. Tom, if you'll come forward and get us started with this first reading of an ordinance.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Yeah, this is a first reading of an ordinance regarding the Civic Center and its rental fees. The rental fees have been revised for renting the entire Civic Center and specific rooms. Also, we included in the ordinance a revised rental fee schedule for the Goodyear Clubhouse that was not in there previously.
Okay. And this more accurately reflects or captures our costs when we're renting these facilities.
Yes, sir. In addition to comparing other agencies that have rental facilities as well as the conference center based upon square footage.
Okay.
And part of the comments of the review meeting or previous meeting, we'll get you additional data just to show those with the numbers need to be adjusted. And
Yes.
Just Mayor, if we could, just Tom can give us an update on the Goodyear Clubhouse timeframe.
Yes, sir. We're right now at the very tail end of the project. We have getting some finishing touches with the paint company coming back and doing a little touch-up paint. The company that did the floors coming back and getting some glue off and some paint that was on the floor, so having them do some just last-minute touches to get ready. The ribbon cutting we're looking at is the last week of September, and we'll get out a specific date and time for that. And then so there at the first week of October, it'll be open to rentals based upon the revised rental fees that are approval at that point.
Okay. And if anybody wants to rent any of those facilities, they need to contact the Recreation main office and then, or online, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep.
All right. And actually, can you start that on the My Cartersville app? Or if not, is that a possibility? Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom. By the way, were there any questions for Tom on any of that? We talked about that in work session. If there's not, this is a first reading. We'll take this up at our next council meeting. I'm going to take a little bit of liberty with the agenda for the next two items. The applicant is in transit and waiting to get here. We'll get notified when he is here. So we're going to move forward with the rest of the agenda and then come back to items 3 and 4. So that being the case, SU 2107, Mr. Menino.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This has been properly posted and advertised. With that, this is a special use permit request at 402 MLK Drive to provide for a location for a church. I believe it was a previous location of a city police satellite office. This is the third special use permit application for a church this year. Planning Commission did hear it and did recommend approval.
I know that there's got to be distances from churches to where they sell alcohol. I guess, is that only the case if the church exists first? Because I guess the convenience stores.
No, it still can apply if the church exists after the fact. However, if you go back to that previous screen, I believe the one that's applying for the church is the first not the highlighted building, but it's the first building there, Randy? Is that correct?
I believe so.
That's correct.
Bottom left, yes.
Yeah, the bottom left
Right
building. And we actually measured that at the, using the GIS system at the alcohol control, and for that, it's front door to front door, and it is over 350 feet, which is over our 300 feet requirement.
Okay.
So it will not be an issue for that one.
Thank you.
I got a question. So, just in general, if we were to approve a church that was inside of there, we technically would have to go to the establishment and tell them they no longer
No.
can serve it?
No.
No.
But if they came to get an alcohol license after the church was already at that location, yes, it would have an impact.
And depending if it's a school versus a church, it becomes an issue. And sometimes, alcohol licenses will lapse, and then somebody will want to come in a month later after they buy the establishment to take it over. Then because it's lapsed, then the measurements would not allow them to go in that location.
If the
But
church
as
is
long as
there,
they stay in good standing, you can put them side by side after the fact.
Yes.
The church just understands they win.
Yeah. Now, y'all do have the right, and if you wanted to, in the ordinance to make it so that the churches, that they would lose their right to be next there, but we did not draft the city ordinances that way. But there are some jurisdictions in the state that are drafted that way.
thank you. Sorry for the aside there. All right, any other questions for Randy on this item? If there are none, again, actually, I got a public hearing for this, right? Sorry about that. I'll open up a public hearing for SU 2107 and ask anybody wishing to step forward and speak for or against to do so at this time. And seeing none, I'll close the public hearing for SU 2107. And again, council will take this up at our next meeting. I'm going to jump around even a little bit more, council, since you've given me a little bit of leeway. I'm going to abuse that privilege. Wade Wilson, if you'll come forward. I know there's a number of people here with Terrell Heights subdivision looking at this particular item. And if council would allow me to go ahead and move that one up right here, we can get that out of the way and get these folks onto their day.
Sure thing. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Council. So Terrell Heights subdivision, older subdivision in our community that has encountered some flooding issues over the last several years. There was an impact in April and March storms. And so we've been trying to come up with some solutions. We had some ideas. We had Barge Design Group come out with us and walk the entire basin to see which options would work. We've combined some options here, and now we need to proceed forward with the actual engineering, full-fledged engineering design of it, which will include field work, as well as they will be handling the bid process and the contract management of it also. So the entire project is estimated to be $1.5 million for construction. And Barge Design is proposing to, they have an agreement services of $97,800 for their work. These funds would come from the ARPA funds, which is the American Rescue Plan Act, and these stormwater projects like this are eligible through the as a eligible project through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, the CWSRF, and that is important. So they are eligible, and we recommend approval of this agreement.
if this gets approved, when does work begin and what's the relative timeline?
Yes, so there's some, there are some moving parts in it. The design, it looks like probably around February or so, we would probably have design completed. And once everything is permitted correctly, we would go out for bid after that. There are some issues that could be a few parts that could move there because we may have to change design a little bit based on properties.
Okay. And then at the conclusion of this, Gary asked this, I believe, in the work session, the capacity, what does this do? And I guess use the measurement of, it should be able to.
So yes, as an engineer, it's, be careful when you ask us questions sometimes, but I can't say that it solves every problem in flooding. But what we're trying to do is capture definitely the most significant storms and the ones that are causing the problems. Localized flooding is an issue everywhere now because we have a lot more intense rains that are causing problems on older infrastructures. This is not just relative to us here in Cartersville, it's everywhere. And so we are tackling that. So what we're going to try to do is capture the more frequent events. And what's going on out there is they're getting these floods 1 to 2 times a year, which is very, it's repetitive. And so we're going to be capturing those and actually even more than that. If I remember correctly, we're probably looking much closer to the 25-year storms.
Okay. Thank you. And if anybody has any questions about it, I'm sure they can contact you.
Sure, I'll be feel free to talk to them. I might bore them to death when I start talking about flooding. But.
That was a good example this morning. Sorry.
Thanks, Mayor.
Different energy at these morning meetings. Sorry about that.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to interject. Wade and I have been out there with some of the homeowners, and I know Wade's been out there several times, and he's put a lot of time and effort into this, and I appreciate his time and effort into it. Unfortunately, we are coming across as ARPA funds because, as Wade pointed out, $1.5 million, we don't have that much money in our stormwater budget every year. We'd have to plan for this in the future. So able to attain these ARPA funds is grateful from the federal government to give us this, to use it, because we're looking at 1.5 plus the engineering fees of $97,800. It's a lot of money that we don't have to do this project, but hopefully going forward, as Wade talked about, we'll address some of these issues out there, but I would recommend this for your approval.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions?
I was going to say, I think one point that was brought up in work session, it's not that, we know that flooding happens, but the biggest point is to protect the assets and the homes. And, I mean, if you have water in your yard is one thing, but when you have water in your home, it's a different thing. And I think this is to mitigate and to protect the homes, and I think it's a great opportunity.
Right, yeah, it's getting close. It's gotten some crawl spaces and things like that out there, and I'm not aware of everything because everybody doesn't call the city when something happens, but it's getting close in several storms, and it is flooding their yards, flooding streets. It's significant.
And really and truly, some of the storms we've had, I mean, even some of them this year, there's not a storm system in the world that's going to handle some of the downpours that we've had. But this will certainly mitigate and make those a little bit better. So, all right, thank you. Go ahead, yes, sir.
So I had been contacted by a few people in the neighborhood, but, and I don't know if they were for or against, but I guess in general, the question is, once the design is done, could sidewalks be encompassed in this? I mean, could that be part of a solution or not a solution?
That probably won't be a solution with this flooding issues.
Okay.
And also, there may be a question whether or not we could use those funds for sidewalks.
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as curbing and design, doesn't always mean that just because you get 4 water runoff, doesn't mean that a sidewalk has to go there.
Right, yes.
It appears that was sort of where the one concern citizen was like, fix my water, but I don't want a sidewalk in my front yard.
Okay.
Sort of
Yeah. Sidewalks can be tricky sometimes,
Okay.
but yeah, that's now I think you probably have a problem with funding, utilizing it for that, unless it
Okay.
absolutely drove the design to have
I
those.
think you answered the question
Okay.
perfectly.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. I think we've about talked that one out. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Let's see, what do I want to do next?
Item 7.
Let's go back. So, Chief McCann, if we'll just pick up from there, seized vehicles, please.
Good morning. In August of this year, one of our officers assigned to the DEA task force seized a 2020 Chevrolet Corvette valued at $95,000 and a 2020 Honda Rancher four-wheeler valued at $7,900 pursuant to a marijuana investigation. The Department of Justice requires us to have our governing body approve us receiving these assets after they're forfeited. So what I'm asking is the council authorize the mayor, the city manager, and me to sign this document saying that basically we'll pay 20% of the value of it and any liens, and there are no liens on these vehicles.
And just so people understand, those vehicles are then used in your operations?
Yes, so they're put into our fleet. We'll use the Corvette as an undercover vehicle. We use a four-wheeler at special events and parades. We have to keep them for 2 years, and then we have the option of selling them.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
And so, Chief, I've been up here for about 14, 15 years now. We've never had this. Is this a new process?
It is a new process. Used to, you didn't have to go through all this, but of course DOJ has got new guidelines that we have to do it now. So we're basically following the rules, but we've never done it in the past.
So we'll see every other week you coming in here telling us all the good stuff.
Probably.
We can only hope.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But there is a big backlog that we do have with them on waiting for claims, so you might have a lot of these pop up in the near
Yeah,
future.
these are good things that he comes forward.
Yeah.
Bringing us stuff instead of taking stuff. And actually,
So, I mean, the odd thing is, we don't have to get approval to get U.S. currency forfeited to us, but we do on vehicles and equipment, which is new, so.
okay. Any other questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries
Thank you.
unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Lovell, you've got the next item.
Yes, Mayor, this is a prepay agreement we're doing through MGAG and Main Street. Basically what it is it locks in a price for natural gas for us to purchase for a 30-year period, and by doing so we get it well under market rate, and we'll anticipate savings of several $100,000. We've had 2 of these previously that are expiring or have expired, and they saved the cities, probably over $500,000 over the market rate during that time period. It is recommended for your approval. I would want you to note that the resolution needs to be approved as amended, and what the amendment is to adding the gas superintendent and assistant gas superintendent as signatories for the monthly and quarterly buys of natural gas, so the mayor doesn't have to do that every month. With that being said, the documents that are attached as part of the agenda, the clean new documents with all the blanks filled in, Julia does have those, so you will be approving those documents as well.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, a motion is in order.
Make a motion to approve the resolution as amended.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Chief Carter, you've got the next 2, and as you're making, actually, the next 3, as you move up, Chair will entertain a motion to add 2 items to the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
2 items added. Chief, you now have 3 items. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Mayor and Council. The first item I have for you is seeking approval of a resolution that will authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign a grant application. This is a grant process that we've been able to go through before through Firehouse Sub-Grants. It is a zero match grant. The grant will be in the neighborhood of $35,000. We're still waiting on the final quote price. And what the grant is for individual thermal imaging cameras, smaller versions than what we carry on the trucks, that the firefighters actually wear inside the hostile environment. We see this as a great way to enhance our firefighter safety and survival, and can also be used during collapse environments. We've just not been able to fund this through our general fund, and so we want to seek this approval of authorization to sign the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next item, please.
Next is the first of series that you'll see over the next coming months. This is for the purchase of 6 self-contained breathing apparatus that will be placed on our new tower truck that we're expecting to arrive in April. The SCBAs they're part of the required equipment through NFPA. They're built to the latest health and safety standards. And this is a budgeted item. We have sought quotes from the 2 authorized dealers within the state of Georgia for the specific brand that we carry. And the low bid is from American Safety and Firehouse in the amount of $49,332. This is budgeted, is within our budget for capital expense, and we request approval.
Thank you. Motion's in order.
Make a motion to approve.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. One of those added items belongs to you, Chief. Go right ahead.
That was the resolution that we did first, sir.
Oh.
And the final item that I have here for you this evening, or this morning.
The last one first. Question could be my one. I just put a check mark in the wrong place. Go ahead. Keep moving.
Yes, sir.
Keep it moving.
This is an equipment purchase also for the new tower truck to arrive. This is for the extrication equipment, better known as the Jaws of Life, the E-tools. There's a single source provided for the state of Georgia for this particular tool that we carry on the rest of the trucks. That price is $36,491. This is a 12% increase over the last tools we purchased in 2018, but it's still a good fair market price. It is budgeted, and we seek your approval for this purchase.
Thank you. And motion's in order.
Make a motion to approve. I'll second that.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Porter, you're next.
Yes, Mayor, the HVAC system at the old courthouse, which we leased to the Bartow History Museum, that's one of the HVAC units over there has failed and needs to be replaced. I'm requesting approval using tourism product development funds to pay for this. The new unit, $6,914.19.
Any discussion? And if not, a motion's in order.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Hampton, you've got the next couple, please, sir.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
First item, yes. First item this morning requesting is the purchase of a 300 kVA pad mount transformer, a 3-phase transformer. This is basically a unit to replace the last stock unit that we used recently for one of our new customers in town. Normally we do go with the lowest total ownership cost on our recommendations. This time we are requesting to use the model, the GE model from Irby that was only about $350 more because of a 10-week shorter delivery time, and the lead times and everything is so long now. So we are requesting your authorization to purchase this unit from Irby for $13,761, and this is a budgeted expense.
Okay, thank you. Is that going to be quick enough to accommodate anything you got coming down the line?
It will. If we get in a pinch, we can put like a 500 out there, and then usually we can just go back and change it during an outage later if we need to.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Good. Thank you. Any other questions? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next one, please.
All right, next one is the annual renewal of our maintenance contract with Itron for our MV90 software. This is the software we use to perform the monthly billing for our larger industrial customers. The amount was $12,859.48, and this is a budgeted expense.
Okay. Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions? Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Derek. Mr. Forsythe, you're up next. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. The first I have here is a zero-turn mower replacement. We currently use a 2007 model zero-turn mower for office grass cutting and as well as easement right-of-way, water storage tanks, pump stations, that kind of mowing. It's starting to become unreliable this year. We have budgeted a replacement for that. We accepted bids, and I'm requesting approval of the low bid for Haney Farm and Ranch Supply for $10,425.
Any discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next one, please, Sydney.
Yes, sir, this is a request for approval for engineering design and contract administration for the replacement and refurbishment of the Main Street Booster Pump Station. This is a redundant pump station for our high-pressure system. We've received a proposal from Wiedemann and Singleton Engineering for $223,210. And this is a capacity fee funded project. Recommend your approval of this.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Sydney. Wade, you had one that we left on the table. Is he still here?
No, actually, that's for me, Mayor.
Down the street, Keith's gonna do
It's on the street.
Sharp as a bowling ball today. Go ahead.
Mayor, this is a standard certificate of dedication and maintenance agreement for the Jones Street condo project being developed by the WOMAX. It is recommended by staff for your approval.
Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Morgan, you've got one item? Yes, sir. That was the other added item.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. We're requesting permission to move forward and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to sign a contract from GDOT that performs a valuable service for us. It's a north end of the runway EMOS system that is fully funded at $2.3 million. So we're requesting approval for that.
Okay. Any discussion on this? If there's none, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we have the finance report, we're going to go back up. Mr. Menino, if you will take up the T21-03.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This case and the following case, the special use permit application, are directly related with the same applicant. The applicant was looking to do a veterinarian clinic with an indoor kennel at a particular location. It was not allowed in the MU zoning district. With that, they have applied for a text amendment to the zoning ordinance to allow it as a use that could be placed with a special use in the multiple use zoning district. That use is clinic or animal hospital as well as kennels. It was read by the Planning Commission. Planning Commission discussed it and actually added that it be indoor kennels only as opposed to just kennels, and did recommend approval of the proposed text amendment.
And it is clinic or?
Animal hospital, yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions on this?
What is the difference between a clinic and an animal hospital?
That's a good question, but I believe an animal hospital does have emergency services, may have weekend services. I don't, the doctor could explain it because of the operations he's had in the past, but there are different functions they have for emergency services.
Basically, it's when we adopted the ordinance, you had either veterinarian clinics in town or other communities had animal hospitals. So to make sure we allowed both, we put both in there for the definition.
Any other questions for Randy at this time?
When you say animal hospital, that's beyond dogs, right?
Well, all of them are beyond dogs.
Yeah.
Either that, it's for full-service veterinarians, any animals that they want to serve for their particular facility. Could be large animals, or it could be, dogs and cats, or I guess it could be just mice if that's what you wanted to serve.
Exotic animals.
Exotic animals could be under that as well, although a lot of exotic animals are prohibited in Georgia. So There's not that many that are actually allowed as pets, though people actually may violate that law from time to time.
And I will note that this discussion is just for the text amendment. Following would be the actual location discussion for a special use for the use of the indoor kennel and veterinary clinic/hospital.
Thank you for that distinction. We'll do our best to not blur those lines. Any other questions for Randy on this text amendment? Thank you. Now I'll open up a public hearing for T21-03 and ask anybody wishing to step forward and speak for or against to do so at this time. Or maybe come up and answer the question about whether or not there's an animal clinic, what's the difference between a clinic and a hospital. And if you would, if you'll state your name and your address for our clerks, we have that in minutes, please.
Dr. Tommy Thompson, I'm the veterinarian trying to seek approval here. I live at 3940 Paces Manor, Southeast Atlanta, 30339. And I was going to say I've been practicing for 30 years. I've built and run 7 different animal hospitals through the years. This would be the 8th one. And through the years, we've never had a single complaint that I'm aware of about the kennel or kennel noise or smells or anything like that. You know, we run a pretty tight ship. We like it clean. We want it to smell good when people come in the door. So, you know, we've got a good reputation. If you look at the other facilities that we've built and maintained, they're, you know, upstanding parts of the community. The community really likes having them convenient and having our services. With regard to the difference between animal hospital and clinic, generally speaking, a clinic means that it's open during daytime hours. Animal hospital suggests 24 hours. But in the veterinary business, there's a real blur in that. A lot of people, it's just a choice of names. So we're not planning on being open 24 hours ever. We're not planning on being open past 6 o'clock in the evening. But sometimes, you know, we stay late to do emergency surgeries and such. And we can be, you know, there till 9, 10, 11 o'clock sometimes later. But when that happens, it's not the general public coming and going. The doors are locked and we're inside doing the surgery. What else?
Well, relative to the text amendment, is there anything else you want to add? We'll move on to the next one.
No, it's going to be a strictly indoor clinic, indoor kennel. We will be walking the animals outside at least twice a day, sometimes more frequently if they're older animals. And, you know, so in the morning, sometimes there's a little bit of barking. In the evening, when we're walking them, they're ready for food, so there's a little bit of barking. But again, we've had no complaints through the years with noise problems.
Okay.
Exotics, you know, we really don't see what I call exotics, like lions and tigers and bears and such. We do see pocket pets, ferrets, gerbils, guinea pigs, birds, snakes sometimes. So that's about it.
Okay. Any other questions relative to the text amendment?
So is this a franchise? You say you run several of them?
No, I've just built them privately through the years.
And so this will be one of the ones that you oversee? Are you going to be a resident there, or are you going to be ownership but ran by somebody else? How do they go?
I'll be the owner, and I'll oversee it, but I'll have hired veterinarians working for me. Dr. Angela Wright, who lives in Cartersville, will be the first vet that's working there, and I probably will fill in some as well. You know, she has many years of experience as a veterinarian and wants to get back to Cartersville to practice.
Are most of your hospitals centralized like this one would be? I know
So,
the ones in Ackworth are kind of off the main business sector in the city. This one more or less
the one in
the
Ackworth is
gateway
on,
to Cartersville.
yes, the one in Ackworth is on Cedar Crest Road, and it is like in a community of office space, but it has subdivisions behind it and across the street from it. So it's, you know, right in the heart of the community. The other one that I currently own is Butler Creek Animal Hospital at Ackworth West and US 41 in Ackworth, Kennesaw, right on the line. And it's, again, part of a subdivision of businesses, a strip center, if you will, or an out parcel of that. And there's a subdivision right behind it. And like I say, through the years, we have had one complaint, and it's where one of our trees fell over and damaged their fence, and that was the complaint. So we've never heard anything about noise or smell or any intrusion such as that. The other animal hospitals that I've built and operated, I've sold to associates.
So
I sold them.
this is a large building.
Councilman, if I may,
Go ahead.
the item that we're handling right now is just the text amendment.
Go ahead.
If you would allow me to, we can have this conversation. I just want to make sure, I know that you can move these comments to the next part of the application, but I want to make sure they're captured under the right heading. So if it's all right with you, if there's nothing else with it relative to the text amendment, you can go ahead and just step aside for just a second. And thank you, Doctor. And so is there anybody else wishing to speak for or against relative to the text amendment T2103? And seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And again, this is the first reading. We'll have the second reading at our next council meeting. I'll call on Mr. Menino to open up the conversation on SU 21-06.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. As you had noted, this is directly related to the proposed text amendment. The same applicant is looking, if said text amendment is approved, to allow the special use of a clinic or animal hospital and indoor kennels. They're looking to locate one at this particular location, which is, the address slips me.
314 East Main Street.
That's it. It's between East Main and East Cherokee Street, former BB&T Bank building. A portion of the building is currently occupied by a tenant that would remain at this time. They would like to put the clinic there with indoor kennel. It was discussed pretty thoroughly with the Planning Commission. Planning Commission, as I noted with the text amendment, did change the actual text amendment to indoor kennels versus just flat-out kennels in the MU. And as we had mentioned in the work session, that the reason MU didn't allow it to begin with is there is a residential component in the MU zoning district. There is actually a single-family house still on one corner at Stonewell in East Cherokee near the proposed applicant's property. We did have concern from that particular property owner. That information would have been included in your package. With that, after the discussion with the applicant, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the proposed special use permit application.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Mr. Menino at this time relative to SU 21-06? And seeing none, thank you. Go ahead.
I'm just going to, I said before, just a clarification of the zoning where we can put these. I think they're agricultural. I know they're in my packet here, but
Agricultural, general, commercial. The actual clinics versus kennels, the animal hospital or clinic is allowed in agricultural, general, commercial, light industrial, heavy industrial, and actual kennels themselves are allowed in agricultural and I believe general commercial under our current ordinance. Now again, this is because MU had the residential component, it wasn't included in there in the first place. The smart thing was to allow it as a special use where it has to be scrutinized, because there are MU areas that are completely commercial around it or even have some industrial around it. With the special use, it's not an automatic use allowed by right. It does have to go to Planning Commission and ultimately to City Council for approval. So we are comfortable with the special use aspect of it.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Randy at this time? Thank you.
Does that outline encompass all the property
Yes.
of the building?
They do have, the bank did have an additional drive-through that is not included at this time. The applicant had mentioned he may be in negotiations with that additional piece of property where the, I don't know if it was the ATM or the drive-through for the bank, but we'll let the applicant answer that question.
Okay. Any other questions for Randy? Thank you, sir. Again, I'll open up a public hearing for SU 2106 and ask anybody wishing to step forward, speak for or against, to do so at this time, and maybe answer Councilman Cooley's question, if you don't mind, Dr. Thompson.
So with regard to the ATM, it will be owned by me, but the BB&T has the right, or SunTrust Truist has the right to use it until the end of May of '22. At that time, they'll leave the premises and I'll take over. So it is a part of the property.
And so at that time, the ATM will be closed down?
Well, we may repurpose it at that time. We talked about different things like, going through permitting to get an additional building there for our training facility and play care. So it'd be a separate building. But we haven't really ironed that out. There'll be ample space in the current structure for us to carry out our operations really for several years without the need for expansion. And probably we'll never need to expand, but we may, may try to repurpose that for some specific activity like play care or training.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Councilman.
What does that entail? Explain.
So play care is like daycare for children. People bring their dogs or cats in the morning, leave them with us. We take care of them during the day, have them playing together. It's very popular. And then they'll pick them up in the afternoon on their way home from work. So that's that. And then we have certified trainers, a couple of which have trained with Cesar Millan. So it's kind of high-end training. And we'll take animals in and train them to do obedience, search and rescue, and that sort of thing, in that same facility.
And that outline on the previous print, does that include the walking area for you?
It does. May I?
Yes.
Sure. So right now, here's the main building. And this section right here is leased by the state of Georgia, and they're planning on staying for long term. And this portion right here would become the animal hospital, 2 stories. This is the ATM drive-through that we're talking about that maybe later on we would add to, maybe we just leave it as is. We haven't decided on that. There's a large green space right here. And what I mentioned is clients would come in, the state of Georgia uses a lot of this parking back here. Our clients would come in and park in this area, enter through this section. If they're going to the animal hospital, it'll be all downstairs. They'll check in there and see the veterinarians downstairs. If they're staying for overnight boarding, then they'll go to the upstairs area. The interior walls will be modified to add insulation, and there'll be special air conditioning and heating units that scrub the air to take out viruses, mold, bacteria, smells, that sort of thing, and carbon filters. And so it's all pretty clean operation. When they're walked outside, like when the clients arrive, or when they're walking a couple times a day, they'll come out that door, and they'll be walked in this area. We'll plan on doing a fence, probably running from about here over to about here. And so that'll be green space that we fence in with a nice wrought iron fence. The animals will be taken out there a couple times a day just to use the bathroom. Of course, with student food, get rid of it. And it'll be maintained really well. It just has to be for it to be a good sanitary place for everything. Plus, we don't want to be an eyesore to the community, and I realize that that's right along East Main Street. We want it to look good so we can attract more business. So we will definitely maintain it. Right now, it's becoming a little bit run down. It's definitely overgrown. The building needs some attention, and we plan to do all of that in pretty short order.
What is your anticipated capacity of the kennel portion? I think it's kind of, the indoor kennel piece is, I think, a little bit, has our attention a little bit more at this point.
Sure.
What is the anticipated capacity of that?
During busy holiday times like 4th of July, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, those are our busiest times, maybe as many as 80. I mean, possibly up to 100, but I think the way we have it planned out, we've got plans for about 80.
And what type of animals would y'all be kenneling?
Almost all dogs. Sometimes we keep cats, sometimes we'll keep birds or pocket pets like ferrets and gerbils and guinea pigs. Every once in a while, reptiles, lizards, snakes. We've had a potbelly pig a long time ago. It was kind of a disaster for us, so we decided probably we wouldn't do that again. No cows, no horses. You know, we're qualified to see them, but in our North Georgia practice in LJ, we used to have them, if they could get them to the parking lot in a trailer, we would see them, but not here. There's not really room to do anything like that.
Does the viability of this project depend on you having a kennel there?
Yes, sir. I mean, if you look at any animal hospital, pretty much nationwide, almost every single one has a kennel. So.
Any other questions?
And lastly, you say you had several animal hospitals, and you have sold some?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and there could be a possibility that you might even sell this one?
Well, I'm getting kind of old, so I'm anticipating in the next 10 years or so retiring, and it would be either selling to an associate, one of the veterinarians that works for me. That's typically what happens. Although more selling to corporations these days. So,
And your residence in Fulton County?
Fulton County. Cobb County, sorry.
Cobb County.
You had mentioned, Doctor, that basically holding up to 80 dogs at one time, is that green space sufficient? How's that green space compared to your other facilities? Because that seems awful small.
This one's actually pretty large for us, so we think it'll be really a great place. And, you know, at one, like at Cedar Crest, we can house, I think it's like 130. So, and again, we have subdivisions right behind us. We've never had a single complaint at that facility with that many animals. So there we have a separate building that we use for training and play care. We have outdoor facilities for all of that. And at this one, it's going to be contained within the building, and there's not really enough green space to do play care outside like that. So it'll be, and we have enough space indoors. We prefer having the animals inside because anytime we take them out the door, there's a risk that they can get away from us. And, you know, I always think that if I was walking every single animal, it would probably never happen. Well, I'm not that perfect. But, you know, I have a lot of people that work for me, and we have, through the years, lost a couple of pets that got off a leash or something, bit the employee and then took off. And so for us, that's our biggest fear is that we lose an animal. And so we try to keep them in the building.
I think that what the city manager was asking was, how big is the actual walking kennel area at your other facilities? What's the size of it roughly in comparison to this? Is it bigger, smaller?
The one at Butler Creek in Kennesaw is probably 3/4 that space, and the one at Cedar Crest in Ackworth is about half that space.
Okay. And serves about the same number of animals?
Actually, a lot more.
Okay.
So Butler Creek, I think we can house close to 100. And Cedar Crest, 130, maybe 150.
So the exercise, just a dog to say, does it matter about the size of the dog versus the Great Dane versus the child?
Nope.
So they all get the same amount of exercise no matter
One
the size or the age or whatever?
I'm sorry, what was that last question?
Besides the age of the dog or the size of the dog?
So the size doesn't make much difference. Of course, we try to keep the big dogs away from the little dogs, so we tend to walk on the little dogs first and then move on to the bigger dogs. And then the age, you know, when they become older, they like to go out more frequently. They need to go out more frequently for movement of their joints and also because they need to use the restroom more frequently. So we'll take them out maybe 3, 4, 5 times a day, depending on the individual. So what I like to think of in the community, like at Cedar Crest, for example, we've got one of our trainers, one of the ones that trained with Susan Milan. He he likes to get a handful of leashes of dogs, and he'll have 7 or 8 dogs walking down Cedar Crest Road, all of them doing tricks and stuff like that. So in the community, everybody loves us because they like to see that kind of activity. But most people like cats and animals. And so they like to see that activity happening. Same thing with the walking dogs outside. So I think it will be, I won't say a real attraction, but I don't think it'll be a negative thing for the community, for Main Street. I think it'll add to it. But that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, the Main Street is a state highway,
Yeah.
and we have all kind of traffic going through there. I don't think
Some of the
18-wheel or whatever.
So the walking down there is on the road, not in a dedicated area?
At Cedar Crest, yes. We have designated areas, but sometimes the trainer for special purposes will go outside of that. So here, there's not really a good place to do that. So, I'm not anticipating.
What is the process? I mean, that number of dogs going to the bathroom that many times, I know a few dogs I have, I know what they're capable of producing. How do you handle that? It's not going to stay on site for any period of time, is it, or how do you get rid of all that?
So each time an animal defecates, we clean it up with a poop scoop, and then put it in a receptacle indoors, and then each day that's gotten rid of. So a lot of the waste is frozen and then taken off by special service. And with urine, it's a different thing. Sometimes it'll kill the grass, so we spend a lot of time keeping our lawns maintained. Some animal hospitals will use artificial turf in the area, and that works really well. And you raise it up and have it drain into a gravel bed. So, if we detect an aroma out there, we get out and flush it really well with water and disinfectants. So again.
So it's frozen and transported away, it's not going to be sitting in a dumpster on site somewhere,
No.
basically. Gotcha.
So, again, this is a business for us. We're very serious about it. And we want it to look good. We don't want the community having negative feelings about the animals.
Gotcha, thank you. Any other questions for the doctor? Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Anybody else wishing to step forward, speak for or against, may do so at this time. And seeing none, I'll close the public hearing for SU 21-06. And again, council will take this up at our next council meeting, which is October 7th. Thank you very much, Dan. Mr. Reinhardt, I believe it's time for you to give our financial report.
Good morning, Honorable Mayor and Council. This morning, we will be looking at July 2021 and comparing it to July 2020. The general fund revenues decreased over last year by $179,000. Expenses increased by $230,000. Two areas of revenue I look at on a monthly basis are local option sales tax, have an increase there of about $106,000. Building permits and inspection fees have an increase there of about $30,000. Water and sewer fund, revenues increased over last July by $249,000. Expenses decreased by $286,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, decreased debt service expense, decreased capital expenses, and increased transfers to the general fund. The gas fund, revenues increased over last year by $476,000. Expenses increased by $287,000. This is due to increased operating expenses, increased cost of purchased gas, and decreased capital expenses. In the electric fund, revenues increased over last year by $60,000. Expenses increased by $384,000. This is due to increased personnel costs, increased operating expenses, increased cost of purchased electricity, decreased capital expenses, and increased transfers to the general fund. Stormwater fund, revenues decreased over last year by about $100. Expenses decreased by $10,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses, decreased operating expenses, and increased capital expenses. Solid waste fund, revenues increased over last July by $283,000, and expenses decreased by $14,000. This is due to decreased personnel expenses and decreased operating expenses. And finally, the fiber optics fund, revenues increased over last July by $31,000. Expenses increased by $33,000.
This is due to increased personnel expenses and increased operating expenses. In the cash position for July, total unrestricted cash decreased slightly, total restricted cash increased. The SPOS balances, 2003 SPOS has a balance of $49,357.68. SPOS 2014 has a balance of $304,134.35. And SPOS 2020 has a balance of $2,937,989.01.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, this is just the first month of the fiscal year. It's hard to see what we anticipate going forward, but as Tom pointed out, the loss is up $105,000 over last year this time, so that continues to trend well for us, hopefully for the rest of this fiscal year.
Absolutely. All right. Any questions for Mr. Reinhardt?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I typically ask, is there any business that needs to come before council? I know that there is business to come before council. Ms. Davis, if you'll step forward, please. And again, anybody wishing to speak, you'll need to give your name and your address for our clerk so she can include that in the minutes, please.
Okay, hello. My name is Kathy Davis. I live at 19 Crestwood Road in Cartersville. I have lived at that address for about 26 years. I currently pretty much take care of the TNR in Bartow County. TNR is trap, neuter, and return. Basically, it's trap, spay, or neuter. We vaccinate for rabies, and then we return the animals back to their original location. This is for feral or community cats. Well, unknown to me, I've been breaking the law for about 1.5 years by trapping these cats in the city of Cartersville because it's not legal in the city of Cartersville. It was made legal for Bartow County in February of 2020, and I did not realize that the city of Cartersville had their own rules and their own laws. Basically, what I would like for the city to do is to amend their ordinance to where it makes it legal for me to do what I have been doing in the past and trapping these cats. What I do, granted, there are no vets currently in this county that will help me with low cost. What I have to do, I have to trap these cats. I carry them either to Cat Snip, which is a van that goes around, and we can take cats, leave them that morning, pick them up that night, and they've been vetted. Then I have to hold them for a couple of days before I can put them out loose just for their own safety. I can either do that or I can drive all the way to Dalton. I've also driven many times to Villa Rica. The first 6 months that I worked on TNR, I did, I believe it was like 278 cats that we had spayed or neutered. That was only in a 6-month time period. What this does, it puts the cats back out to where they're accustomed to their home being. It prevents them from having any more cats or kittens. By doing this, they protect that land that they know is theirs. They protect it from rats, from snakes. They also protect it from other cats coming in and invading their turf. Because these cats are very adamant that that's their home, and those cats that they're sharing their space with are their family. And unlike most cats, these feral cats have so much street smarts that they're not going to let another cat invade, and they're not going to typically have that many fights. They kind of establish who is top, the king of the jungle, who is the top cat, and who are lower in standards to them. But they reproduce so many kittens. And we have a lot of complaints about people saying we are overrun with cats. So I offer free spay and neuter to the people who are taking care of community cats or feral cats. And I have also just recently been, since I actually ran across a very nice grant. I've been helping people who are unable to cover the full cost for spay-neuter. And I let them pay a portion of it, and I cover a portion of that vet bill, just to try to help maintain this massive overpopulation that we have. I got some numbers from the Bartow County Animal Control, and it seems that, well, really just in the past week, from Friday until Monday, there were 18 cats turned in. And of those 18 cats, for them to go out into rescue, they have to have at least $100 in funds just to cover basic vetting. And this is through a low-cost spay-neuter place. This is not a a top-notch, more expensive vet. They have to have at least $100 per cat. Well, we have volunteers, thank God, who will put forth the money needed to cover these costs. That was $1,800 just for like a day or two worth of cats coming into our county system. So by providing this service and being able to stop the reproduction of so many unwanted cats, we can prevent so much of that money being spent trying to get those cats fixed and into a rescue that will handle it, and we have to send them up north because there's not enough people in the south that don't have cats already. So what I'm proposing is just to make it legal, and I do have the actual legal documents, how it was repurposed and reamended for Bartow County, so y'all can look at what they have done. And I am hoping that y'all will make this legal for the city like the county made it legal. My friend back here keeps getting in trouble because she's feeding cats at her house. And somehow her neighbors keep reporting her for feeding the cats because it's keeping them at their house. But they don't realize that if she stops feeding these cats enough to keep them going, they're going to have rats overrun in Atco. She lives in Atco. And most people that have been here for years realize that Atco, when the Goodyear plant was torn down, Atco was overcome with rats from that building. So they're not realizing the significance that those cats are doing by just keeping the rat population down, because a cat's not going to go in and eat up your wiring in your house where a rat will. So what I'm proposing, though, is literally just to follow what the county is doing, give us the right to go out, trap these cats, get them spayed or neutered, and release them back to their home. What I tell people, if they want the cats removed from that area, they have to trap them themselves. They have to carry them to animal control. I do not have the legal right to remove any animal, nor will I remove any animal from its original source. So that is my proposal. Anytime anybody has questions, I have cards here I'll be happy to give to you afterwards, and I'll be happy to answer anything you need to know. If I need to look back at some more records, I'll be happy to do that. But I was doing pretty good in the city before I found out I was breaking the law, so I would appreciate the opportunity to come back into the city and be able to continue what I've been doing.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Davis?
What do you figure the feral or community cat population is?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. Just behind Jefferson's, the eatery downtown, I think I took about 12 cats from there and had them fixed within the first month that I was doing this. And I still did not capture all of the cats there. There's about 4 or 5 that look alike. They're all orange males behind that building. I got 1 orange male, so there's plenty more still running back there. Feral population is probably astonishing.
Do you find that there's pockets of them, like, they have a certain place, like, probably in my neighborhood, there are cats that are owned by people, they just have outdoor cats. And I don't know if I see a lot of feral cats or community cats.
You
per se,
most
but-
likely will not see a feral cat because a feral cat does not want to be seen. They hate people. They're scared to death of people, and they avoid them. That's why I say they have street smarts. They are going to hide from you the best they can. They're going to be under a building during the daytime. They will come out at night to eat and roam. But most likely a feral cat you will not see. Community cats, which are owned cats, we just don't know who they are owned by, they will be seen, and they will be friendly to a degree. We have a community cat at my house that will make himself at home inside my house if we're not careful. I have no clue who he belongs to, but he's fixed. He's not bothering anything. But feral cats, you're not typically going to see many of them. Not a true feral.
Any other questions for Ms. Davis? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other business needs to come before the city of Cartersville this fine morning? Seeing none, just another quick item. Thank you to Michelle Bledsoe, the public safety officials, our chiefs, and everybody that came out and participated in our September 11th Run to Remember. Raised about $11,000 for George Byrne Foundation.
We're actually just a little over 15.
That's fantastic. So congratulations, and thank you for that entire event. Also a reminder that the Cartersville Homecoming Parade is, weather permitting, supposed to be today at 6 o'clock, Chief? Is that right? Weather permitting, so that may impact your traffic flows as the afternoon goes on. And, or if you want to see a parade, that's where you need to be, right down Main Street to see that. So, anything else from council? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There you go.